Okay, the next fly to show you is a Beige. It's a West Country dry fly from the 40s, primarily used in the Dulverton area, an area I know quite well, originally called the Beige. It was slightly modified by Peter Dean. I'm not sure what he did, but he slightly modified it, and his house overlooked the Calm Valley, and this is a view dominated by the Calmstock Beacon. Now, I had friends in Hemyock who told me all about this. Peter renamed the fly the Beacon Beige. I first met this fly when I fished the Lye Brook in Worcestershire. There's a little village called Lye Sinton on the road between Hereford and Worcester, and the Lye Brook goes underneath. And I met a fisherman there who fancied some of my blue quills, which I freely gave him, and he insisted on giving me the Beacon Beige. Now, I can assure you, although it's a West Country fly, it does work very well in South Wales. Its unspectacular appearance belies its effectiveness. Now, there's a couple of tips I want to give you about tying this fly, because the body is a stripped peacock herl, and the peacock, it's herl from the peacock eye feather, and it's stripped. Now, most people strip it by putting it on a piece of glass or even a formica surface and running a rubber, like a school rubber, down it, and it takes off the flue. That's a good way of doing it. I tend to leave them attached to the peacock eye feather and dip them in bleach, then put them under the running cold tap and run my thumbnail down. But whatever way you do it, it's the stripped herl from the peacock eye. Now, there's a couple of tips to it, to doing it, to tie in this herl. And what I tend to do is I run a felt pen down it, one of those yellow marker pens, this type of thing. I run this down when it's on the bench. Well, I put it on a bit of paper. It's a felt marker pen, and that makes the colour stand out a little bit. With it also, the tie-in silk for this fly is yellow, but I put a foundation of black on the shank, and when I wind the herl, I leave a little gap. Now, I don't know if you can see this body, but when I wind the gap, it stands out a bit better. And I also start tying the herl, a bit unconventional, with the wide end at the rear. Now, that's against all rules of fly tying. You tie in by the narrow end normally. You will see me do that. Anyhow, the foundation of black silk does help. And then I varnish the body afterwards. Okay, I'm going to start it off now. So I'm going to put that foundation of black silk, as I mentioned. Now, I'll just take this down, and I will be tying in the tail, which is a grizzle, Plymouth Rock sort of feather. I don't know if you ever kept chickens. I have. Plymouth Rock. It's a grizzle hackle, and it is a very useful feather in fly tying. Right, I've got one here. Just going to strip off some of the bits to form the tail. Just like that. See if I can line them up a little bit better than that. Okay. This is all part of the foundation of the silk. Not a lot of the tail. I will probably put a couple more fibres on there. Just like that. that's the tail. Can you see that tail okay? And I'll nip off some of these here. I cut at this angle so I don't get a solid lump. Now, when I get to there, I tie in the stripped peacock curl, and this is it. Narrow end there, wide end. 9 out of 10 people will tie it in by the narrow end. I don't do that, I tie it in by the wide end. And you may notice it's got a sort of olivey tint to it. Not essential. The true tie-in calls for the natural colour. But I honestly think this is a bit better. Okay, I tie this on now. There's not a lot of bulk with this herl feather. And now I'm going to concentrate on trying to keep a solid foundation of the silk, the black silk, because this is going to give me, I want it to show through the herl when I wind it. Okay, I'm going to touch some varnish on it, bring my silk a little bit to the front, 2 winds. I'll put some varnish on just to help it to stick. It's not the strongest of material, peacock herl, but it's used a lot, and it is a very natural looking sort of material. Okay, here we go. Now, I'm trying now to get a gap, a very fine gap showing, not a big gap, very fine gap, and I think it looks better. And people who've seen my fly say, that's a nice herl body, and it's the gap that gives it that sort of appearance. It can be used on nymphs or anything wound this way. And also I'm using a black foundation of silk, but a maroon comes out quite well as well. Now that's the body on, and I hope you can see that, and I hope you find that that is a nice body. Pardon me. Now, I always touch varnish, and if I wasn't doing a demonstration, I would leave this to dry a little bit. So I'm not going to put much on, hoping that it dries by the time I get the hackle sorted out to show you. There's no wings on this fly, and just while that's drying, we'll go back to this original fly. What I'm going to do now is change the silk to the original yellow to give it a yellow head. So I'll get my yellow silk, and I'm going to tie this off, and I'll just give it a couple of, while I'm doing this, the varnish is drying, just give it a 1 or 2 winds of a whip finish. 1, 2, that'll do. Put the needle in, draw it up, and I'll remove the black silk, which has done its job really. Put that to one side, and I will start now with the yellow silk, which I've already waxed. Now there's 2 hackles on this fly, a little bit unusual, but there are 2 hackles, one wound through the other. You can wind them both together, but I find it's better to put them on and wind them separately. Now, it's this natural fox brown hackle like this, the little one, and the grizzle hackle again. So I'm going to strip off the bottom to give me a stalk to tie in, and I'll tie this on now. The silk, the varnish should now be dry. I'll tie that in like that, and now I do the other hackle. When I've been pushed for material, when I've run out of hackles, I've just put one on, and I found the fly is pretty good just with one hackle, one of these hackles. Anyhow, this is a true tie-in. So I've got that on. I'm going to bend these stalks forward just for security and wind over them like that. Now that'll stop them pulling out when I wind the fly. Remove the stalks and I'll bring my silk to the front. Now I'm going to wind the brown hackle first, and I'm going to do it in sort of spiraling open turns because I've got to put another one on with it in a moment. So I'm opening it up, and that's going to be it. 2 winds. You've got to remember, if you just give each hackle 2 winds, it's like 4. But the grizzle one, which I think is the important one, will have more than 2 winds. Okay, here's the grizzle one going on. I think this is the one that gives it the attraction. The brown is original. It's what the pattern asks for. Now that one is on as well. So I tie that one there, nip off the surplus. I call it surplus, but there's enough there for another couple of flies. And I'm now going to form the head. And the way I will form the head, to give me a bit of room, I'll put a half hitch on with my cotton bud, I think. Yeah, I will do that. Keeping pressure to take the silk back to expose the head a bit better. These half hitches will all help anyway. You see it's taking the hackle back a bit, like that. I think that should be okay, and now I can do my whip finish, which will finish the fly. Hackle is a bit forward, but that doesn't matter. 1, 2, 3 are enough on a dry fly. And I draw it up like that. Cut the silk, bit of tension, see the fly flexing, open the scissors to a gape. I'm not cutting, I'm just pushing. And that does that. Now I will move these back a little bit to get on some varnish on the head. There's 1 or 2 little bits here that can be removed. Okay, I'm going to varnish the head to finish the fly. Lovely dry fly. I like it very much, and I've had success with it. I don't know what it represents, but I think it's what we would probably call an all-rounder. Okay, let's get the varnish on the head here. Just like that. Just a touch. That's that. All I need to do now is clear the eye. And with the dry fly or small fly, I will use the feather to go up through. And that does a good job. That is the Beacon Beige. As I say, West Country fly that I'm sure you will find useful. Thank you for watching.